Okay, and that workflow was a built-in workflow of SharePoint, which means it was available in SharePoint by default, and we can use such kind of workflows with any list or libraries in SharePoint. But those workflows are available once you enable or you activate the workflow feature in SharePoint 2010. Okay, let me explain you that how we can create workflows using SharePoint Designer. For that purpose, I will create a simple list. For example, a custom list. Now, any idea why do we use custom list in SharePoint? What's the purpose of custom list?
Allows you to build any kind of list you want.
It's exactly whenever you're building a list, which means a list or a template which doesn't serve your purpose. So in that case, you can create a custom list. And in custom list, you can add as many columns as you want, as per your need and as per your requirement. Okay, so if I click on custom list, for example, let me name it workflow demo. I will apply a demo on this list. Okay, it's a custom list, so let me add 2 columns in this list because I will use those columns in workflows. Okay, my first column is, for example, color, and this will be a choice type of column. And the available choices will be, for example, red, blue, and green. These will be the available choices in this column. Then I need one more column. And let me name it workflow output. Okay, this will be a single line of text column. So now our list is ready, and I want to create a very simple workflow on this list. In first workflow, we'll only experience that how to create a workflow and how save and how to publish a workflow using SharePoint Designer. So the next thing what I will do, I will open SharePoint Designer. So for that purpose, let me come to Windows key. So I'm on a start screen. Okay, here I can find this tool, SharePoint Designer. Let me click on it. Okay, I will open my site inside SharePoint Designer. And the address of my site is http://sp server 2013/sites/student01. Click on open button. So it will open my site in SharePoint Designer. So Mark, have you ever used this SharePoint Designer before?
I have, yes.
Great. created any workflow?
No.
Okay. Okay, so our site is open inside the SharePoint Designer. Okay, so Ankin didn't use it either. Okay, so I want to create a workflow on my list. By the way, we can create different kind of workflows using SharePoint Designer. You can associate your workflow with any specific list or library by using the list workflow option. You can associate or you can create a workflow on a site level, okay? Or you can create a reusable workflow. Once again, most of the time we create list workflows which are directly associated with any specific list or library. So we created a list in SharePoint and the list name was workflow demo. So this list is available over here. So I want to create my workflow on this particular list. So I will select this list. Okay, you will provide the name of your workflow. Let me call it workflow demo HWF. Okay, it's the name of my workflow. Okay, there is a platform type. Okay, in SharePoint 2013, there is another type which is known as SharePoint 2013 workflows. But by default, these SharePoint 2010 workflows are available in SharePoint. In order to enable 2013 workflows, SharePoint administrator or SharePoint farm administrator are supposed to install some other component, configure it, then those will be available to you. However, SharePoint 2013 workflows are much advanced than the SharePoint 2010 workflows. Okay. However, if you understand SharePoint 2010 workflows, then you can very easily create SharePoint 2013 workflows as well. Okay, so currently we have only this platform, so I'm using SharePoint 2010 workflow. Okay, so it will take a little while, and then the SharePoint Designer workflow environment will be available. And here it is. Okay, as I mentioned, that SharePoint 2010 SharePoint Designer workflows are a no-code workflows. Okay, so which means I cannot type any code over here. All I have to do is to select actions, what I want to do in this workflow. There are different kind of available actions, which means you can, if you want to add a comment, so you will probably select add a comment. Multiple type of actions are available, and as per the need, we use these different kind of actions in our workflows. For example, if a task is to send a request, send an email to someone, so there is an action name, send an email. So I will use this particular action in that case. Okay, so let's say I will do a very simple thing. What I will do, I will log to history list. I want to use this action, for example. Okay, remember the position of this orange bar, it's very important. If I click over here on actions, you will find multiple actions. Okay, just because the position of this orange bar. However, if I click outside, now the orange bar is outside this step 1 box. Okay, and this action is not enabled now. Okay, so be careful while you will be creating your workflow, that make sure that your bar is inside this step box. Okay, so the next thing is I will have to configure this particular action. So in this particular action, it will log my message to the history list of workflow. Remember, whenever you create a workflow, behind the scene, there is a history list as well. And that history list maintains whatever happens with that workflow. That is stored in a history list. So if I would like to add, or if I wanted to let's say add something in a history list, so I use this particular action, log this message to workflow history list. Okay, this was the actual action, log to history list. What I want to log, I will configure this action by clicking on this message link. Okay, so when I clicked it, it opened this particular area, so I can type whatever I want to log inside that history list, or I can click on these dots, okay, which means browse. So it will open a complete window in front of me. So I can type anything I want to type over here. Okay, so for example, let me type a very simple thing. Hello from workflow. Okay, so once this workflow is completed, uh, you will find a message in history list, and the message will be hello from workflow, because that is a part of this workflow. Secondly, I created another field in list, and the second field was workflow output. This was the field, the workflow output. Okay, what if I want to set some value in that field as well? Okay, so what I'll do this time, I will select another action, and this time my action will be, because it's a part of list, so there are list actions available, different kind of list action. There is a list action, set field in current item. So let me select this one. Okay, for example, if I selected mistakenly, so I can remove this from here as well by clicking this down arrow and simply deleting it from here. Or you can simply double click on this orange bar, and you can type, for example, set field. And if I press enter, it will automatically pick the appropriate action. Okay, so there are multiple ways of adding these action. My preferred way is always use this action option. Always go to action, and then I select my appropriate or the required option from here. Okay, so let me select this field in the current item. Okay, then set the field. First thing, I will click on this field, which field I want to set. There are multiple field. Okay, the color field and these type of field, I want to set the value in workflow output. So I selected this field. What value I want to select in this field, so I will click on it, and once again the configuration options are available. So I click on it, and let me say something like let me say this field was set by workflow. Okay, so now, for example, our workflow is ready. The next task is to publish this workflow and to use this workflow on our list. So first thing, what I will do, I will check for errors. So I clicked on check for errors. So it says that workflow contains no error. Fine. And then I'll publish it. Okay, it is published. So I will go back to my list. In Internet Explorer. Here is my list. Let me create an item. Let's say, let me call it item 1. Okay, I'm not giving any value, or I am not providing any value in workflow output. Let me save it. Now I want to execute my workflow on this item. So I will click on this open menu, workflows. Okay, here is my workflow demo WF that I created just a while just ago in SharePoint Designer. Okay, so start this workflow. Now you will find this option completed, which means the workflow executed and it completed. On completion, number one, now I can see the value in workflow output column, the value which I set over here by using this set workflow field option, set field option. Okay. The second thing, I need to check whether it locked this particular message, hello from workflow. So I can go to this completed link. I can click on it, because if you want to see the history list, okay, it says the workflow history, and inside the history in description it says hello from workflow. Okay, so this is the simple process of creating SharePoint Designer workflows.